Hi, this is Nick Varveris. I'm here to cover another video regarding my Cleveland Indians 2007 replay. This video is entitled Opening Day 2007. This video is produced by My Basement Media Productions. You can find us prominently on the internet and on YouTube specifically, where I've covered other Strat-O-Matic videos. Again, I've provided other Strat-O-Matic baseball videos on YouTube, which you can find by searching My Basement Media Productions in the search quadrant. You ought to be able to find all the videos I've produced to this date. This process began as I wanted to cover my Strat-O-Matic story beginning back in 1968, covering the 1967 season, which was my first Strat-O-Matic experience. I have a four-part series entitled My Strat-O-Matic Series, and the basis of that is if the creator of Strat-O-Matic baseball, Hal Richmond, can have a story, then so can I. The last video I produced covered my custom score sheet. I wanted to invoke comments and suggestions regarding how to improve it. I won't go into that detail. You can see that video on YouTube. I thought what better way to demonstrate my score sheet and how I use it than to see it in action during a real Strat-O-Matic game. I also wanted to show how I manage my manual cumulative stats, and wanted to demonstrate that live on video, and again invoke suggestions or critical comments about how I can make it better or how other people are using these. I thank everybody for their comments to date. I was surprised at the interest that my videos have generated. I didn't want to seem like somebody just blowing off comments and feeling too good about themselves, but I really appreciate that the back and forth comments that we've had throughout this process. My opening day 2007 Cleveland Indians is not to do a roll-by-roll analysis of the game, but to provide a summary and perhaps demonstrate how I use the score sheet in action based on that opening game, and then how I record the statistics both as we go for batters and pitchers, and then cumulatively throughout the season. Therefore, my 2007 Cleveland Indians replay begins on opening day in Chicago against the White Sox. The 2007 Cleveland Indians won the Central Division, were in first place with a record of 96-66 during that season. During this replay, this opening game is the only time I used actual lineups that were used for Game 1. The rest of the time I used my own lineups, and that is kind of the fun, I've said many times here, to show your managerial skills or lack thereof in creating your own lineups, again based on the talent that you've been given on your cards. Well, CC Sabathia opened up for the Cleveland Indians that year, and for the Chicago White Sox it was Jose Contreras. So here we go. Alright, so here's my two team sets. Indians that won 96-66, and of course the Chicago White Sox there that didn't do quite as well. They were 72-90 and in fourth place. And incidentally, this is how I store my my teams. Each team is in a 4x6 clear bag with a top zip. And for teams that I play a lot, each Cleveland Indian card is in a finer mylar protective sleeve that keeps it in pristine condition. If you have any questions about that, I'd like to know the resource and items and numbers for these things, please give me a ring or contact me through Facebook or YouTube, and I'd be happy to get that information out to you. And this demonstrates the big legal binder that I use to keep all my records and cumulative stats in. It has different categories for everything, and I'll explain them later on. Here was the lineup for Chicago. I have the basic side up because it has the statistics, but I play the advanced version with some super advanced features, as I've explained several times. And Jim Thome, it's kind of odd seeing Jim in a Chicago uniform. Pierzynski, the catcher that tended to annoy everyone, and also Contreras' pitching card. And similar, here's the Cleveland Indians, again showing the basic cards side up because it has the stats on them. And just for completeness sake, CC Sabathia, Travis Hafner, the Pronk, and Victor at catcher. Notice that CC's card has the asterisk by the name on both sides. That is the designation for pitchers that only need 4 days rest, as designated by Strat. I don't know why they just don't produce those automatically with that on the cards. Okay, so here's the score sheet before any play is conducted. I'll just kind of scan across it. You see I've designated that we play advanced. Game notes, it's game number 1. The Indians lineup, you see I have their lefty-righty on the left, and then their position and E ratings to the right next to each other. I like to have the opposite, the home pitching on the visitor side, and I've kind of explained it. You see I have right, lefty, hold, and injury rating. So the advanced injury rating did not occur until the 2016 replay season, where I would record the injury rating for that pitcher. But here in 2007 it was not used yet. I record the start time, the end time, and then the net game minutes played. And I think I average about 43 or so minutes per 9-inning game. Some longer, a few shorter. And then here's Chicago's lineup. And again, Sabathia is listed on the as a visiting pitcher on the home side. Lefty pitching with a hold rating of -1. And as I've said, I use a legal size sheet of paper that I fold horizontally in half, and I simply switch the paper back and forth over as I go from visiting each half inning, visiting to home team. Okay, the top of the first inning began with Grady getting a walk and then stealing second base. Nixon proceeded to strike out, and then Travis Hafner fouled out to the catcher for the second out. Victor Martinez then hit a double, which scored Sizemore. Notice that his diamond is blocked in. Notice the right slash indicating the RBI for Martinez. Casey Blake then was hit by a pitch, so we had men on first and second. Notice that I put a small slash on the HB for Contreras to easily keep track of those type of issues like home runs allowed, box, wild pitches, etc., pickoffs, that I can keep track right as I go, and that's one of the reasons why having the home pitching on the visiting side is so much more efficient for me. Okay, the rest of the inning, as I said, Casey was hit by a pitch, and then DeLucci struck out for the third out. Notice the small little slash at the bottom signifying the end of that half inning. In the sums category, there was one run on one hit, no errors, and 2 left on base. For the White Sox, the bottom of the first, Ozuna hit a double, but was stranded there when Erstad flew out to center field. Tomey struck out, and Paul Konerko went 6-3 shortstop to first base for the third out. Again, under sums, that was no runs, a single hit, no errors, and 1 man left on base. So at the end of 1 inning, the Indians led 1-0. The Indians' second inning began with Peralta hitting a home run. Notice the horizontal bar for the RBI. And then Barfield and Marte both popped out to shortstop. And a 4-3 ground out by Sizemore. Indians had a 2-0 lead after the top of the first. Again, notice that I have now a dot for home run allowed and 1 dot for hit batsman for Contreras. Chicago's bottom of their second, a 6-3 by Dye. Creedy hit a double and then advanced on a sacrifice bunt to third base. 2 outs, and then Przinski grounded out short to first for the bottom of the second. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, 1 left on base. Okay, the top of the third began with Nixon being safe on an error by the catcher, E2. Notice I have E2, and in the, let's see, the sums area, I have a dot there to make sure I record the error. And then on the opposite side, under Przinski, you see I have this small E there to indicate his error. So after Nixon's error, Hafner singled. Notice I have a small dot to right field. That's only necessary with men on base, so I can factor in throwing arms for extra bases. Martinez then flew out to center. Casey Blake struck out, but DeLucci singled and scored Hafner, his blocked in diamond. And notice that there's another slash for an RBI. Well, let's go over this again. Hafner singled to right field. Martinez had struck out, or excuse me, it flew out to center. Casey Blake struck out, and then DeLucci singled, scoring Nixon. Peralta then doubled, scoring Hafner, and another RBI was assigned. Again, Barfield had singled and an RBI. Peralta was stranded at third, and Marte lined out to the shortstop. In the sums, I have 3 runs, 4 hits, 1 error, and 2 left on base. Notice the bar above the runs. That indicates from the to the pitcher stats that one of the runs is unearned. Chicago's third inning opened up with Uribe flying to center. Then Ozuna was safe on an air E5 to third baseman. Again, notice that under Andy Marte's position at third base, there's an E to indicate his error. After the E5, Ozuna was caught stealing. So there's the line halfway to second base with the bar and a CS in red at the top right. That was the second out, and the third out was a strikeout. So after 3 innings on opening day, the Cleveland Indians had a 5-0 lead on the White Sox. Okay, Cleveland's top of the 4th inning began with a strikeouts by Grady Sizemore and Trot Nixon, and then Travis Hafner hit a home run, again in red with a bar indicating his RBI and blacked out. Notice the bar line underneath it, which indicate that the pitcher was chased. Contreras then was chased from the inning with his stat line 3.2 innings, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed, 1 hit batter. So Gavin Floyd came in. Notice I have 4th next to his name. So for quick reference as to when he came in the game, he promptly gave up a home run to Victor Martinez, and then Casey Blake struck out to end the top of the 4th inning. Indians, what now? 7-0. Chicago's bottom of the 4th inning was uneventful, so the top of the 5th began with strikeouts to DeLucci and Peralta, and then Barfield hit a double and scored on a fly ball or single to left field. Notice again the RBI by Andy Marte. A 3-U unassisted ground ball was the 3rd out of the inning by Grady Sizemore. The bottom of the 5th inning for Chicago began uneventfully with a pop out to second base by Joe Creedy, and then a ground ball 4-3 by Aguchi, the second baseman. However, White Sox finally got on the board when Przinsky hit a home run, and then he line out to first base by Juan Uribe, who was a great guy playing for Cleveland. This is when he was younger and more svelte than when he finished his career with the Tribe. Again, as a point of emphasis, noting under the slash line the single dot for home runs allowed for Sabathia, so that I make sure I record that in the end statistics. So into 5 innings, 8-1 Cleveland over Chicago. Okay, top of the 6th, beginning with Nixon. He doubled. A single by Hafner scored Nixon. And again, there's the slash for the RBI. While Hafner was at first, there was a pass ball by Gavin Floyd that allowed him to go to second base there. Pop out to the catcher for the first out. Single to center field. You see the small dot over the second base to indicate it's the center fielder's ball. A strikeout and a strikeout to end that half inning by Peralta. Notice now that Przinsky has an error and the pass ball indicator above his name. Chicago's bottom of the 6th inning was uneventful, a fly out and 2 strikeouts. The top of the 7th for Cleveland began with a single by Barfield, and he was caught stealing going to second. Again, you can see the bar with a halfway slash going to second base and the CS in red at the top right. A strikeout, and then a strikeout by Grady Sizemore. That was the first open inning by Cleveland in the top of the 7th. Chicago's bottom of the 7th inning began with a Konerko 5-3 ground out. Then 3 straight singles occurred by Jermaine Dye, Joe Creedy, and Gucci. And then there was a 2E E9 by Trot Nixon. Again, notice the 2E to indicate a 2-base error for Nixon in the top right of his cell. Okay, so the E9, notice the bar underneath it, that chased CC Sabathia out of the game, and here was his slash line. 6.1 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned due to that error, no walks, 6 strikeouts, 1 home run allowed, and the rest zeros for hit batsmen, balks, wild pitches, errors, or pickoffs. So Rafael Betancourt came in the 7th. Again, notice that I put a 7th next to the name so it's easier to pick out where they start. There's the E9 that ended CC Sabathia's excellent effort, and then promptly the next two batters popped out to shortstop to end the seventh inning. But Chicago was on the board. Well, the hitting wasn't over. In the top of the eighth inning, you had a single by Martinez, who went to second base on a wild pitch. Casey Blake then doubled, scoring Martinez. DeLucci then singled, scoring Blake, the two RBI slashes there. And the third out of the inning was made 5-3 by Johnny Peralta. Again, a sum line of 2 runs, 3 hits, no errors, and 1 left on base. Chicago's eighth inning began with a double by Erstadt, followed by Tomey's ground out for 3, then 6-3 by Konerko, and a line out to third base by Jermaine Dye. One thing I failed to mention in the seventh inning, there was a pinch hitter for Ozuna. Fields pinch hit and then went in left field, and he was the third pop out to shortstop to end the seventh inning. I really only needed the left bar, not the right bar. Another thing I'd failed to mention, at the bottom of the sixth inning, on the Cleveland side, notice there's a slash for the pitching replacement. We had Gavin Floyd go 2.1 innings to end the sixth inning, and then he was replaced by Massett in the seventh, who went 2 innings. So Buckfitch came in to pitch for Chicago in the ninth. You can see that's the line at the end of the eighth inning. He pitched a clean inning with a fly out to left field by Barfield, a pop out to the second baseman by Marte, and Grady Sizemore 4-3 ground out for the third inning. One thing that I had mentioned in my other score sheet thing, if that fly ball had been one of those on the Strat card that had a possibility of a home run, like home run 1-16, fly ball left field B 17-20, and you roll a 17, 18, 9, or 20, I would have put a horizontal bar above the seventh to indicate that it was almost a home run. Bottom of the ninth for Chicago began with a pop out to the first baseman, and then Iguchi hit a triple. He then scored on a pass ball by the catcher Martinez. Again, notice under Victor Martinez, there's a PB above his line on lineup number 4. So the game ended with a 5-3 ground out by Pierzynski and a pop out to second base by Juan Uribe. The sum line was 1 run, 1 hit, no errors, and no left on base. Since pass balls and wild pitches do not count as errors. Okay, so slash line, 11 runs, 17 hits, 2 errors, and 8 left on base for Cleveland. 4 runs, 8 hits, 1 error, and 5 left on base for Chicago. Contreras got the loss. Time of the game was 6:57 p.m. to 7:52 for a net game time of 55 minutes. Cleveland's stat line Sabathia got the win, going 6.1 innings, and pitched a pretty good game. Okay, so that's the folded out sheet. I can say right now that I'm about 30 games into this season, and the Indians have only performed in this fashion once or 2 other times, and I find them at 11-19 for the season, which is baffling. Not great fielding, no clutch hitting. Pitching, starting, and relief is overall, with the exception of a few pitchers, poor. And I hope things change, or it's going to be a long season getting to 162 games. So recording stats would go on a pitching and a hitting sheet kind of like this. And So since this was the very first sheet, for example, over the first 10 games, Aaron Fultz, for example, had no starts, 4 appearances, but noted by the slash. And then cumulatively, at the end of the 10 games, in the line in red, I record the stats there. So this was the very first sheet for pitching. Team totals were recorded down at the bottom. As you can see here, this is the pitching sheet. So here's the batting sheet. A cacophonious scratches, but to give you an idea, this is again from the start of the season. Grady Sizemore scored 6 runs in the first 10 games. The PO is he was picked off once. And then cumulatively over those first games, he was 12 for 42. He had 3 doubles, a triple, and a home run. Walks, strikeouts, RBIs, walks, and strikeouts, etc. all the way across. And then at the end of the 10 games, up in the red bars, I would record that accumulation. The very next sheet, you notice up at the top it says after 10 games. So the stuff in red is from the previous sheet, and then the new scratch marks in black, for example, with Rafael Betancourt between games 11 and 20. He made 6 more appearances, and those are the individual slashes or numbers for the number of innings, hits, runs, walks, strikeouts, etc. Okay, and then after each 10 games, there's a cumulative sheet that I'll show you. Before that, here's the sheet for batters. Notice up at the top it says after 10 games. So again, like Josh Barfield was 13 for 38 after 10 games. And then between 11 and 20, it shows his slash lines there. So those would be transferred to the next batting and pitching sheets and so forth. So this is the cumulative stat sheet. So that stuff from the individual pitching and hitting cards or sheets gets transferred now to this cumulative sheet that has the batters up on top. This was one after 10 games. Again, it's the same information, but just all transferred onto one sheet as a cumulative stat sheet. As I mentioned it, here's the one after 30 games, which I recently completed. Notice they're only 11 and 19, which is ticking me off, considering they're supposed to be a 96-win team. And again, pitching on the bottom, hitting up at the top. When I first started, I used to throw away those individual pitching and batting sheets, after I crested each 8 or 10 game. I used to throw those away after I crested and recorded them on the cumulative sheets, but I decided to keep them, and I file them in the same legal binder at the back. And the reason is that there have been times when I may have picked up an error, and by going to the original sheets, I could make a correction on the cumulative sheet. So I keep them until the end of the season. Again, that's the individual pitching and batting sheets. So towards the back is where I stack and keep all my game sheets. And behind it, if I can do this one-handed, is again those individual pitching and batting thresholds that I just kind of keep there because I have picked up errors and was able to go back to the original to make the correction on the cumulative statistic sheet. So that concludes my opening day Cleveland Indians versus Chicago White Sox replay for 2007. The whole purpose was to simply demonstrate how I use my custom score sheet and why I do things the way I do. I hope it was helpful. I look and hope you'll give me some feedback, not just whether you like it, but I hope if you have better ideas or something else that would work better, please suggest that. That's why I got involved with doing this. I wanted to have interaction with other Strat people and see what I do, how different it is perhaps from what you do. So thanks for watching, and I'll give you an update on the 2007 season for those interested. I know there's a lot of Cleveland Indians fans out there that subscribe to the Strat-O-Matic baseball channel on Facebook and watch my videos on YouTube. So have a great day, and thanks for watching.